So let me move on to the second case then. So in this second customer case here, what we have is, I don't think this was mentioned, it wasn't mentioned this morning, but when we talk about our Sovelia PLM integration, Marco this morning just looked at our Sovelia PLM integration into Inventor, but we actually have a CAD add-in functionality. Here I'm looking at AutoCAD, and we are able to generate models inside AutoCAD. And when we try and save those models inside AutoCAD, we get the same tools and functionality that Marco was looking at this morning. We can create this as a reference. We can put it in the right place. We can tell it what it is. We can add information to it. Look at our properties and our naming and generate this as an item inside Sovelia PLM and send the item data straight off. Saving it away, and we now get an item, and we can do all the usual good stuff of promoting, revising, publishing it. Maybe we want to open it up in Sovelia PLM and have a look at it. So not tackled this morning, but we can do that with our CAD add-in. But this is just straight AutoCAD. We know then that in AutoCAD Mechanical, we can create these mechanical bills of materials. The mechanical bills of materials that we create in AutoCAD Mechanical aren't tied to anything else. They're on their own. We can place the functionality, but our customer wanted to have this mechanical information inside Sovelia, and they also wanted to automate it a little bit better, and they also wanted to make sure that it was synchronized between AutoCAD Mechanical and between Sovelia. So the first case, or the first thing that they wanted to do, was they wanted to look up in Sovelia an item, and they would use the item number as the thing to find it. But they then wanted all of some property information, and they would define what that property information was, and they would then want that information to go into a new line inside the bill of materials inside AutoCAD. Again, functionality that currently didn't exist before this. The second thing that they wanted then was, once they'd produced the bills of materials inside AutoCAD, it may be the creation of new items, or it may be the use of items that exist already. But once that bill of materials was built up inside AutoCAD Mechanical, they wanted a way of pushing all that information back into Sovelia. Up to now, the way that we've recommended our customers to do that was to generate the bills of materials inside Sovelia, inside the HTML tool, once they'd got the main reference for the model, for the AutoCAD model inside. So basically generate the bills of materials afterwards, but not have it really linked to the model in any way other than via the top level. So this is, again, new functionality that the customer wanted. And the third problem then that they wanted to solve, or the third piece of data that they wanted, is when you place, or when you want to make a new line or a new item in the bills of materials inside AutoCAD Mechanical, we have these point references that we place. When we place the point reference, they wanted to be able to check or reference information between the AutoCAD Mechanical, and then look at an existing reference inside Sovelia and cross-reference and cross-check the information within the two systems, meaning that they had a unified set of data. As we talk about, one set of truth, one source of information for everything. And that would then populate our bills of materials inside AutoCAD Mechanical, knowing then from step number 2 that we could actually push that data back into Sovelia and back into Sovelia PLM. So those were the 3 problems, and we looked at all sorts of things to try and resolve this. and we were reluctant really to try and develop a custom solution specifically for just AutoCAD Mechanical. So I think the team with this task came up with a really clever way of solving this. And it's also a way that potentially all of you out there could benefit from in the future. But I'll leave that to the end. Let's show you how we solved this particular problem. Solution then, how did we resolve this? So the first thing was then that some new functionality that we have. Well, it's quite new functionality that we have. And again, Sammy mentioned it earlier on in one of the sessions that he looked about is if you have a Windows system, then one of the Windows systems that we have, or one of the things that we have is that we have down here, I'm just trying to get rid of this. Let's try and get rid of this bottom section. There we go. One thing that we have on the actual inside the tray in the bottom right hand corner is we have a product that we can load called Sovelia Sync. So Sovelia Sync is a way of synchronizing files between your Windows computer and that HTML interface, and also within PLM. So we had Sovelia Sync, which was a product that existed already. It's kind of 12 to 18 months old now. It was released. It's a separate product, a separate add-on, if you like, to load onto your Windows PC, but it's an extension to the PLM, the Sovelia PLM environment. So we have that Sovelia Sync. Some really great things around Sovelia Sync are we have to have a login for Sovelia Sync. So as a user, we are identifying a user, and we are also identifying securely, from a security point of view, a user on the system. That means that if we interact with Sovelia Sync in any way, we know that the credentials that we're sending to and from PLM, we could be as part of a group, or we know that we're secure, we know that we have access to information, we know that we have access to specific information, and maybe we don't have access to other information on the system. We also know then that we can synchronize information between the local desktop and Sovelia PLM. Now that means that we must be checking in the background what's the revision, and we must be checking what's the item that we're working with. Do we have the latest revision? Do we have the latest item? So already we have a code base in the background that we could work with to check the information that's coming backwards and forwards from our local machine to the server. And that's our start point for looking at this solution. So what we did was 6 months ago or so now, we actually developed an API for this. So I think an API stands for an Advanced Programming Interface. So we developed a way that a third-party application or program could use Sovelia Sync as a way of communicating with Sovelia PLM from the desktop. Now, this is where it gets really exciting for customers. From this point of view now, if we have an API locally in the system, we can now start to write programs which would ask for the latest revision, or ask for information about items, or ask for information about maybe bill of materials information or structure or things like that. It's possible then, in this case, using Microsoft.NET, we developed a way of talking to the API and getting that information that we needed from Sovelia PLM. And it just so happens, by happy coincidence or chance, that AutoCAD Mechanical, we can also write applications for that in .NET. So in this case, for this customer, they're using AutoCAD Mechanical, but in your case, you might not be using AutoCAD Mechanical. You might be using some other program that you want to interact with Sovelia or send some bill of materials information or find out some item information or work with that. In that case, if you can use .NET, or maybe you want to use one of our programmers that uses .NET, we can interface through the API into Sovelia Sync to get that information from Sovelia PLM. What did that mean in this case? Well, we then developed for the customer some specific toolbars inside AutoCAD Mechanical. Those are adding a part reference, which is pushing that information to Sovelia PLM, updating the bill of materials, exporting the bill of materials, and also updating the attributes again to push the attribute information. We had ways of checking to find out whether the items existed inside Sovelia. If they didn't, you had to create them. Were they up to date? Did they need updating? Were they not in the system already? And we created it through toolbars, and we also created the command line prompts with some tools to be able to do that. All of that then meant that from inside AutoCAD Mechanical, through that bill of materials information, we were able to communicate with Sovelia PLM and update and manipulate and get information from the PLM bills of materials that existed, and those items and those child items that existed on the system. But as I've said, this solution, this is where it starts to be interesting for you, the customers, and also, you know, potentially if you're here from Symmetry and you're part of our sales team, this is where it might get interesting. That's okay. You might not have AutoCAD Mechanical in this case. Maybe you've got one of the other Autodesk products you're trying to integrate with. Maybe you're trying to pick up an architectural product. Maybe you're trying to pick up an electrical product. Maybe you've got a pneumatics product. Maybe you've got, you know, a calculations that you're trying to do. Anything where we can get to that .NET interface and that .NET development, and you can add .NET as a way of interfacing with your program, whichever program it might be. We could potentially use the API in Sovelia Sync to be able to communicate with Sovelia PLM, and I find that absolutely fantastic, and the possibilities there are endless. We're not talking about a long development, you know, in order to get these custom apps out. It may be something that you could do in-house yourselves if you have developers and IT around .NET, or it may be that it's something that we could do for Symmetry for you to interface with your programs specifically. So really fantastic way of working with that.